Today on episode 4 of the Reaper Paranormal Show, we are discussing Robert the Doll. So stay tuned. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's time for the Reaper Paranormal Show. I'm your host, Roy, and today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tom, and we have a special guest, Reaper Paranormal Investigations investigator, Shae. Hello, everybody. How we all doing?
Hello.
Good. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Fantastic. And just so you guys know, I fucked up. We are actually live.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do, don't even worry about it. We'll do the show, and then I'll make it private after the show's over.
Okay.
There's no point in getting out and come back in again. Whoever sees it, sees it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I was in such a hurry to do this up. I keep forgetting to go private.
And I almost
last time we just got off and got back on again. I was like, I'll learn someday.
And I was going to remind you too, because I thought of it and I forgot.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm too much of a hurry,
No big deal.
All right, so
just slow down, smell the roses.
Right. But like I said, it's not really a big deal. But so we're discussing Robert the Doll today. I found it really interesting. I've heard of Robert the Doll, but I haven't known the total story. I don't know how about you guys?
No.
I came across the story recently, and it totally creeped me out. It just freaked me out. So yeah,
it could be a story. But so everyone tunes in next week. We are going to be doing Gettysburg. So we're going to be discussing Gettysburg next week. So tune in for that. So let's start Robert the Doll. Let's discuss this. Tom, take it away, my friend.
All right. So again, this is one of the few paranormal things that really, really scares me, and but I'm fascinated by it. So Robert the Doll. Oh, look at that picture. Oh,
it's kind of creepy.
That and just so everybody knows, that doll is 4 feet tall in real life. 4 feet tall.
That's amazing.
And we'll get into that as we get going. So, all right. Robert the Doll. To start, we got to go all the way back to 1900. And that was the year that Robert Eugene Otto was born. He would later come to be known as Gene Otto or Otto. So he was born in 1900, and 1904, Robert was given a gift, and that gift was a 4-foot tall doll. Now, there are a few theories as to how who gave him the doll and how it came about. The first theory that was thrown around was that the doll was a gift from his grandfather. His grandfather, they're of German descent, the name Otto, and his grandfather was in Germany on business and came across the doll and thought it would be a great gift for Robert. So he brought it back and gave it to him. Well, that's one theory. So the second theory is that the doll was given to him by a servant of the Ottos. The Ottos were, well off. They lived in Key West, Florida. I don't know if either of you have been to Key West. Beautiful down there. Beautiful. So yeah, the servant gave it to Robert, but the idea was that the servant was poorly treated by the Otto, Mr. and Mrs. Otto, Thomas Otto being the father, and so she put a voodoo curse on it.
You knew that was coming. You knew damn well that was coming.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Rich people get a doll from a servant. How's a servant going to give somebody a doll? A 4-foot doll, let alone at that? Not be cursed, please.
Exactly. And then there's a third, pretty much generally accepted theory, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So let's get into the story a little bit. So immediately Robert was enamored with the doll. It became his best friend. He everywhere he went, it went. The parents found it a little creepy, but the son they were afraid was a little bit socially awkward and eccentric, so they let it happen, and he would bring the doll to dinner, and they would they'd see him talking to him, playing with him, all that good, just being a 4-year-old kid, 4 or 5, growing up. But soon after, some weird stuff started happening. The parents swear that they would see the expression changing on the doll, but it didn't make sense because you couldn't do that with the doll. And I mean, it's 1904, so they just, let it go until one night, the Robert's mother was awoken by Robert, who at this point now was going by Jean, because the doll had said there was only room for one Robert, and that he could not be called Robert anymore. So he had to go by his middle name, Eugene, which was shortened to Jean. So the mother was awoken to Jean screaming and crying. So she runs to his room, and now it's locked. She can't get in. She's banging. She's frantic. She doesn't know what's going on. Finally, she's able to pry the door open, and the son, he is on his bed in the fetal position with the covers over him, just shaking, crying, and Robert the doll is sitting at the edge of the bed just staring at the kid.
Yeah, that'd be pretty damn creepy.
And furniture's everywhere. Stuff's everywhere. So there's just clothes, everything. The room is just in shambles. And so the mother, not knowing, she obviously thinks that Jean did it. And
I think it was definitely Gene. Look at this doll. There's no muscle. He ain't moving no furniture.
That thing is freaky. Oh my god.
There's not even a mouth. How do they communicate?
That is freaky.
How does he eat?
How does he eat?
That'd be my concern. I want some food.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm a fat kid. I like to eat.
Same.
Well, we get along.
So the mother thinks it's Jean, and goes to scold them, but she's concerned, and Jean says, "I didn't do it. Robert did it," which became a popular refrain in his life. From this point on, it seemed like any time that Jean got in trouble from this point on, he would say, "Robert did it," no matter what. It would just...
I have a question.
Yes.
Where did this happen? Like, was this down south?
Key West,
Key West, Florida.
Oh, it was in Florida. I know this. I was being stupid there. All right, so it was in Florida. So, Louisiana, a lot of voodoo down there. Where was the? Well, I don't know if you know this. I don't want. I'm actually like you might know this. The woman, the servant who supposedly gave him the doll.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know where this servant was at this time? Because I couldn't find out anything about the servant after supposedly.
So
gave him the doll.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I probably should have mentioned that. Yeah. So the idea was that the servant gave the doll after she had put the curse on it, but she had brought the doll as sort of a mea culpa or whatever, trying to get her job back because she had been let go. And the idea was that she brought this doll back as sort of a gift to get back in the good graces and get the job back. And the mother and father accepted the doll, but did not give her job back.
See, I heard something different.
Okay.
I had heard, this is what's great about paranormal history. You have so many different versions of what could have happened. what I had read, I didn't hear, I read, was that she was abused by her people she worked for, the parents, and that because she was abused by them, that she gave the boy the doll cursed to get revenge.
Well, I
from
did
being
say that
abused.
she was mistreated as a servant earlier in the episode.
Right. Okay.
But I didn't know what in my research it said mistreated, so abused. It makes sense. So
Well, peaches and pears. You know what I mean?
but no, I'm glad you brought it up because that is the great thing about paranormal. You can go to read 5 different books, get 5 different explanations. Go to 5 different websites, get
whichever
5 different.
version, Shae. Come on, Jay, chime in. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
No.
No, I'm glad you jumped in. Please jump in at any time. So the servant had been mistreated, gave it, and was not let back in. So anyway, we had the incident with Robert. She went in, and the room's in shambles, and now more weird stuff started happening. They would hear footsteps going up and down the stairs when Jean wasn't home, or when Jean was upstairs playing, he would be talking to somebody or something, and which isn't that uncommon for a young kid. Like I said, he got it at 4, but now he's getting older at this point. But they would hear another voice that was unnaturally deep, and in some accounts they say demonic, malevolent, something like that. So that started to frighten them quite a bit. So, and then Robert or Jean at this point is, other stuff, little stuff's happening that's annoying his parents, breaking stuff around the house, glasses being broken, room being a mess, and come back to that refrain, Robert did it. And so finally the father gets fed up, and sorry, just going through my notes here. So the father gets fed up, and he moves it up to the attic, and that's it. He doesn't want to see the doll. He doesn't want it around, because this way Jean cannot just say every time he does something wrong, can't blame it on the doll. The doll's, the father is thinking out of sight, out of mind. So, and Jean's getting a little older at this point, and actually becoming a man, and he goes off to study art and in Paris. He goes to Paris and goes to school, and for art. He becomes actually a fairly well-known artist and author later in after he gets back. So he's over there for quite a few years studying, doing his thing, and then the parents die around 1945, and Robert moves back because he inherits the house, and he moves back. He's met a woman at this point, and he moves back in with his wife. And one of the first things he does is go get Robert the doll out of the attic, because it's his best friend. And at this point he's decided that the doll needs its own room. It needs its own place. It was his best friend growing up, so he's going to give the doll a room, and he gives it a room upstairs that overlooks the street. Some accounts it was Jean's bedroom, the one with the incident where the mother had to bust in. So he moves it up there, and the wife, it just does not like it. It's a 4-foot tall doll. She's, in her 20s with her husband. Why do they have a 4-foot doll? And why does the 4-foot doll have its own room at this point? but she just lets it go because it's her husband. She loves him. He's eccentric, but what are you going to do? Except now they're hearing again. They start hearing footsteps going up and down the stairs. They're hearing pacing. They're hearing sitting in a rocking chair, looking out the window. They're hearing the rocking chair rock. And then they're starting to hear stories from these kids who are walking to school who actually changed the route, their walking route to school, because these kids walk by and they would look up in the window and Robert would be up there sometimes making a face at them or something. And then they would look away, and a second later, he would be looking out a different window from a completely different part of the house. So like no human could walk that fast or move that fast throughout a house. So these kids rightfully freaked out. I would have been freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. I probably would have cried and peed my pants or whatever you do as a kid. And yeah, they changed their route to school because they're just terrified of this. So so they go on and just more weird stuff's happening. And then at some point, and it's not clear on the year, Gene starts to become super attached again, the doll. And now he's bringing it with him. He's talking to it. The wife would get annoyed by maybe a mess, and he starts doing Robert did it again. So now the wife's like, oh God, here we go. And at one point they actually move it to the attic again, but that doesn't last long because they start hearing pacing, and they said they described it as devilish giggling from upstairs, and real loud footsteps, almost like somebody was pounding, trying to get out. So it doesn't last, and he is moved. He takes him back down, puts him in that room, and just weird stuff happens with him and the wife up until Jean's death in 1974. So after Jean's death, she immediately moves it back up to the attic. Don't blame her. Would have done the same thing, moves it back up, but then she dies in 1976, 2 years later. So then the house is bought by I want to get her Myrtle Reuter. I'm sorry if I'm drawing that. And Myrtle buys it, and Robert finds him a little creepy, but it's kind of cool. So she had it displayed for a short amount of time.
Only a woman would find a doll creepy but cool. I bet you Shaden would. And Shae, you would love that doll.
I don't want it. I would never want it in my house, but I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
This is the house, by the way.
Wow, beautiful.
That the kids would I can't even talk. Would have went by and seen the doll hanging out the window, looking out the window at them.
Yeah, it would have been that window right there in the front, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Kind of creepy though. That's a big house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were. I had mentioned they were pretty well. They supposedly had servants. So, and this is early 1900s. So they must have been decently well off. Plus the grandfather and family traveling to Germany and stuff. So, but wow, that is a creepy house.
Right? Big houses creep me out. You never know what's around the corner.
Yeah, but I love the style. It reminds me of like New Orleans. So
New Orleans.
I was thinking the same thing.
Was that?
I was thinking the same thing. Very New Orleans.
Yeah, I lived there for a short amount of time, and
really,
and yes, and the place was my cousin his place looked similar to that. So yeah, I lived not too far off of Bourbon Street actually. So back to the story. So then she displays it, but then weird stuff starts happening. She has a child, and even more weird stuff start happening. And now Myrtle is convinced that Robert is trying to kill her or trying to hurt her. And so she doesn't know what to do. Eventually, she decides it's got to go in the attic, which they had done before, like the previous family. Puts it in the attic. Again, the loud footsteps, the pacing, the devilish giggling picks back up, and it just incessant, nonstop. So she doesn't know what to do. Finally, she decides she's got to make some sort of truce with this doll. She's got to get right with this doll, or something bad's going to happen to her and her family. So she brings him down. She, gives him his own seat, and she just respects him. That's it. She, keeps her distance, but she's not going to lock him up. She's just going to let him have the room and do what he wants. And they lived together for about 20 years with, weird stuff happening, but she had made that sort of uneasy truce with the doll. So everything's good. But then all of a sudden, she's thinking about moving the house. She's thinking about moving and selling the house. Weird stuff starts happening again. And she's just like, okay, this has got to stop. She's like, so she finally decides, I'm selling the house and moving. And a couple days after she had sold the house, but she was still living there, she gets locked in a room. And she can't get out. It's locked from the outside. She can't get out. She's fighting. She's screaming. She's stuck in this room. And she realized that at this point, she's like, okay, he is legit trying to kill me. He's not happy that I sold the house. Even though we had this uneasy truce, he wants me gone. So
don't piss Robert off.
She just moves out. Like, even, the sale had happened, but she's out. She's gone. Peace. And she dies less than a year later, or in less than a year from that point. Not too much on it, but, people think that maybe Robert got his final revenge on her for selling. So, yep. And then we come to, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to need an edit, Roy.
Okay.
At this point, we're going to need to edit. I'm sorry. I totally forgot this.
What's the time?
We are at 23:40. Do 23:40.
Okay.
So I conflated two people. So that was my bad. So yeah, so she hang on, give me 1 second here. Sorry.
Okay.
Chat move. Okay, yeah, all right, here we go. Here we go. So, yeah, she decides to sell the house, and she actually donates the doll at this point. She donates it to the East Martello Museum. And she moved out, and like I said, everything about her, she died less than a year after donating him and selling the house. So people think that, Robert got his final revenge on her. So he is donated at this point to the East Martello Museum in Key West. And they don't know too much about it, but it's interesting. You know, they're interested by it, so they do it. And not long after, weird stuff starts happening in the museum. At one time, there was 6 employees there. They went after hours. They were going to do some cleaning and, you know, get stuff ready that they can't do during the day while the museum's open. And at one point, I guess every single light in this museum turned on at the same time. And that's impossible because the lights are, you know, some light switches are on the front, some are in the back. They can't be done. That's weird. You know, they had it out. You know, some of the workers had tried to take pictures of it, and every picture would be blurry, or there'd be some sort of weird light happening. And then one of the final straws before they decided that they needed some sort of change was the museum curator was there after hours, and she has never gone on record to exactly what has happened. People have speculated, but she has never gone on record and said why she was so freaked out. But one night she's in there and something happens. She gets freaked out. She runs out screaming at the top of her, running out. All lights are on, doesn't lock up. And the next morning when the workers show up, her bicycle is still chained because she would bike to work. I mean, it's Key West. Most people bike around and stuff. It's small, and her bike's still chained up. So when they get in touch with her, she had run all the way home. She didn't lock up, didn't turn off any lights. She had ran all the way home without her bike. From that point on, she would not go into the museum alone, and she shortly thereafter quit and found a new job. So at this point, they're like, okay, you know, and then the blurry pictures are happening, all this weird stuff's happening. Some of the other stories are a little sketchy. Some of the workers said that believe them or not. I mean, I tend to believe them because why make it up? But you know, weird stuff was happening to them.
Well, it goes beyond the workers.
Oh yeah,
even people that go there to take pictures. You know, people will say the cameras don't work, and then once they leave, they're fine.
Oh yeah.
People have gone there, and all of a sudden, like there was a letter I showed a few minutes ago. Basically, this person was there, and their back started to hurt. And you know, I'm sure you'll probably get into the letters at some point.
Yeah.
But like I said, the staff members have plenty of like same things happening. One of the things I don't know if you probably touch on it in a bit is well, I'll let you get to it, your stuff, and then I'll bring it up. We'll discuss it when you bring it up.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I was actually just getting weird stuff. You know, you said with the film or with the cameras and stuff. So at this point, one of the workers decides that they need to start respecting Robert, treat him as if he's alive in there. So they decide that they're going to put him behind glass like that because you know, but prior to this, people could almost walk up and touch him. Prior to this, and that's what, as Roy had mentioned with those pictures, that you know they felt as though Robert the doll felt like he was being disrespected by these people, so he would start doing these sort of hijinks and messing with their exposures, the batteries and stuff. So they put him behind the glass, and then on top of that, they decide they're going to give Robert the doll a doll. So that Robert will now, you know, so they're treating him as if he's human, and they think as if respecting Robert like he's human, all this weird stuff will stop happening and he will be fine. And it works for a very short amount of time, because not long after, weird stuff stops happening again, and then as Roy was pointing out, you know, these people, they go in there and they take a picture and it's blurry, or they go in there and the battery is dead in that room only. As soon as they walk out of that room, it's working fine. There's one instance where a person walked in and took 3 pictures of Robert and came back with when they went and had their film exposed, it was 24 pictures of Robert in different positions. Just all he had taken 3, and when he exposed the film, or whatever you do with film nowadays, there was 24 of him in different positions, making different faces and stuff like that. So now they realize, and they had started to implement it, but now they realize, okay, they need to respect him even more. So I have it written down somewhere. Here we go. Started having, dying. So they want now, if you want to talk, now they have disclaimers. If you want a picture with Robert, you have to do certain things. You need to walk in, introduce yourself with your full name. You have to ask Robert if he's okay with having his picture taken, and they just say you'll know if he's not okay with it. That's how the museum leaves it. And then after you take the picture, you have to thank Robert.
Call a load of crap.
Yeah, this part is getting a little weird, but yeah, you have to thank him when you leave. You have to thank him. And
I am so going there. I'm gonna give him the middle finger.
Gracious to him. And
I'm not going with you.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going with you.
I'll go and hang out outside.
No, I wouldn't give him the middle finger.
I'll enjoy the weather.
Not to cut you off, Tom.
Yeah,
but everything I'm hearing, it almost sounds more like a possession to me than voodoo. I don't know if I'm right about this, but that's what the vibe I'm getting. What are you getting, Shae?
So I guess I think I'm actually getting kind of a different vibe from it, because I can't look at Robert's face and not kind of be reminded of it. I know it sounds creepy or whatever. He looks like a poorly executed, which would have kind of fit death mask of a child. For me, at least.
Yeah, I can see that.
Can you see it? Yeah. It just, I mean, that's the first thing I thought. That's all I can think looking at these pictures. And I'm just, it feels to me like it's, like I said, it would have been a poorly executed one. But I don't know. I feel like it looks like a death mask.
It's funny you say that, because if you watch Blind Manor, in the No Faces, I see what you're saying.
Well,
as soon as you said it, I saw it. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, if you think too, I mean, at the size that is, a child that age, if it would have had any deformity, which would possibly explain the shape of the mask, whatever. I mean, they couldn't treat things the way they do now.
Yeah,
and it's, I mean, that's literally all I can see.
Yeah.
And you can see like the stitchings and everything like that. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Yeah, as to your point, Roy, I feel more like it sounded like, as I'm researching this, like some sort of possession as well.
Yeah, voodoo doesn't make any sense.
No, and we're gonna get to. I'm about to get to what they think really how the doll came about. So, but the one last sort of story that I will about Robert, and this goes back to 2017. This just one of the people that when they went into this museum, they were on vacation with their family. They went into the museum, and one of the employees told them everything that they should do to talk about Robert. To if they want to take a picture and everything, they thought it was ridiculous. And then she goes, "Well, then you might want to leave because he probably already knows that you think this is ridiculous." And then this person's like, "Oh, whatever." The museum worker turned their back. He snapped 3 quick pictures on his digital camera, or maybe his phone. It was 2017. It was probably a phone at that point, and snaps 3, and supposedly the rest of their vacation was awful. The family, there was an incredibly bad heat wave, and then they got hurt. They went paragliding or something. They got hurt doing that, and then when they got home, he went bankrupt and almost died. So then he put that out on Twitter, and shortly thereafter, the hashtag Sorry Robert became a thing. And I was just on Twitter today. It really is a thing. People do it, and some people do it tongue in cheek. Some people don't. And
well, all the letters, there are letters still coming to the place till this day.
Yes,
people apologizing for whatever they did.
1 to 3 letters a day, every single day. They get between 1 and 3 letters every single day apologizing. It's usually parents from apologizing for their children sticking their tongue out at them and begging Robert not to hurt their children. But
it's just crazy.
People also have sent money. They sent weed.
You say weed?
Yep,
Over.
WEED?
Yeah, marijuana.
Huh.
And, the people at the museum never take anything. There's a room.
Yeah, sure. They didn't take the weed. Yeah, sure.
There's a room in the back that's full of. Apparently, there's getting to be so much stuff. They're having to like get storage units and stuff between the letters and all the stuff being sent every day, doing 1 and 3 things a day. Supposedly they don't touch it, and there's a room full of stuff, people asking for forgiveness for Robert, and then some people just ask him just for good luck, and that haven't even been there.
Yeah, ask a cursed or voodoo thing for good luck. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
So that's essentially the story of Robert. And now I'm going to get into the there's been a lot of research done on it, because where did this 4-foot doll come from? Dolls aren't normally 4 feet. All this stuff. Some of the stories just weren't lining up. And we're going to get into all that. Before I sort of get into any of that, do you want to jump in here, Roy, with anything?
Yeah, one of the big things of why I said that it's more of a possession is one of the biggest things with voodoo. You're probably not going to have demonic giggles, demonic sounds, which is what they've been getting from the doll supposedly. And him smacking the glass with his hand supposedly. I don't know if that's going to happen with voodoo necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So it to me, it just leads to more possession, either that and or people that work there smoking the weed before they start doing their jobs. And
weed doesn't do
weed's
that.
Laced. Well, it does if it's laced with something.
That's going to be
if people are sending you weed that you don't know and you're smoking it, you're taking your life in your hands.
It's true, but I'm going to tell you, and maybe we'll cut this out afterwards. Or not. Most people aren't lacing weed, because most of those other drugs that they say they're laced with are actually more expensive. So it doesn't make sense to lace weed unless you're using an inferior product. But yeah, because I remember those stories. Oh, this shit's laced with PSP. Bullshit. It's not, because they can make more money just selling straight up PCP. So, but you're right. You should never smoke anything that you don't know where it came from. That's a good PSA Kids don't unless you know who gave it to you. So, yep. So, yeah, that's sort of, it just creeps me out. So people have gone back now, and the origin of Robert has fascinated people, whether it was the grandfather or this servant or what. So the first one that was sort of, they think, debunked was that it was a gift from the grandfather, because when the grandfather went to Germany. Granted, they were German, and the grandfather did travel to Germany, but the grandfather died in either 1894 or 95. It's a little sketchy. Again, we're going over 100 years ago, guys. It's a different time. Stuff was documented a lot differently. But yeah, he was born in 1895. Robert did not get the doll until 1904, and wasn't even born until he was born in 1900. So that timeline just didn't line up. But they were able to figure out where the doll was from Germany. They know that. And it was made by the Steiff company, Steiff. The problem, though, was that it's 4 feet tall, and most of none of the dolls that were mass produced were 4 feet tall. No mass produced doll at that time was 4 feet tall. So
how do they know that for sure?
What's that?
How do they know that for sure?
The Steiff company, the
okay,
that made the doll. So, but
so maybe it didn't come from the Steiff company then.
But they did find out that it was made as a window display. The Steiff company made larger dolls as window displays for stores and retail places. So that is pretty much where they think that came from, but it still doesn't explain how it got into their belongings. Now, we had talked about the servant, and Roy pretty clearly is just like, yeah, that sounds like a story. And yeah, like, how would a servant get to Germany? Like, you're a servant. You don't have money. You're not a world traveler.
Well, that's assuming that the story is true, that it came from Germany.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly it is, as far as
if you believe the servant story, then it was probably created here. If you believe the servant story.
So they looked more into the servant, and they honestly couldn't find anything about them mistreating. And as they were looking into it, they realized that the Ottos were very close with a Bahamian family they were black. And one was a pastor, or not a priest, but a pastor or reverend but they were from the Bahamas, and that we're getting back into the voodoo. So they're thinking, okay, maybe somehow they traveled to Germany and got it, or somehow maybe put a curse on it, but nothing lined up. They couldn't find anything, but they did start to find that maybe Thomas Otto had an affair with the Bahamian, I think his name was Abbott. I think his name was Thomas Abbott's wife, Emmeline. There's actually even sort of there's some vague details of there being a young, light-skinned black girl in the house for a short amount of time. But then it's generally believed that this girl died of maybe consumption just at a young age, being the time. And
there's a credible story for the voodoo right there.
Yes. So
people would have been pissed back then. Black people would have been pissed.
Yeah, you would. I would think so, right? I mean, So
even black people didn't want intermingling. You know what I mean?
yeah. And another thing is too that that Bahamian couple are buried in the same plot area as the Ottos, which would not, to your point, Roy, again, would not have happened that time. That in that time, there, you know, cemeteries were segregated back then for the most part. So the fact that they're actually buried within the family plot, which is a fairly big plot because they were well off, so it led a little more credence to the fact that maybe it was they did have an affair. Maybe it was Robert's half sister. But it still didn't really explain how the doll got here because there was no record of the Bahamian family ever going there. It could, you know, after the doll was here, it could explain how they put a voodoo curse. But then they finally they uncovered records. This is supposedly, you can look this up. I don't know the actual, I'll have to do some actual deep diving, but there are records that Jean's mother traveled to Germany in 1904, right before his birthday. So the generally accepted thing is that she while she was in Germany, she purchased this or came into possession of it and gave it to him on his 4th birthday when she came back from Germany, because there are records of that. And this guy left it. You know, this researcher had left it off as if it is cursed. You know, he believes that it's the little girl that died inhabited it somehow through, and that's why they became so close, Jean and the doll, because it was really his half sister in there. So that pretty much brings us to the present day, and we'll get into some of that other stuff after. So I know it's a lot. Thoughts?
So, I mean, just based on the area that Robert supposedly comes from, I mean, it's especially in the time era. I mean, what if it's some sort of like a Dybbuk burnt or something? I mean, that kind of really pinpoints the area and everything, and it explains a lot of the stuff that's going on. And if you have that kind of an entity in something that's not sealed like a Dybbuk box would be, you have now this thing that has a body.
Wow.
Right. Possession.
That's awesome. Like, I had never even thought of that.
Shae is with us.
That
Shae speaks.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's why I wanted her on the show. She has a unique perspective on things. I would never thought of that.
Yeah, and it's funny.
You know, once you said Germany, I was really kind of, that's all I could think of is that's all I could think of. So.
All right, let me ask you guys a question. Haunted, not haunted? What's your opinion?
What is it?
Haunted, not haunted? What's your opinion?
The doll?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Haunted?
Yep, I think so.
What about you, Tom?
So, you know, I'm a skeptic, but this scares me. It
scares me.
If hauntings are real, this thing is definitely haunted.
Yeah.
If the paranormal is real, this thing is definitely real, in my opinion. It just, yeah. And like you said, the Dybbuk, I had just listened to a podcast on the Dybbuk box that supposedly cursed Post Malone. But it goes back. It's cursed a lot of people, apparently. He just had come into possession of it. But yeah, I really like that.
Do you guys know you can buy those on eBay?
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. I'm looking. I literally just went to eBay and typed in.
Buy one. I'll open it up.
Yeah.
You know, we should open one up is Graham. We should get one for Graham because he doesn't believe anything. You know, you know what?
Send him one.
I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna say, since you don't believe,
Don't tell him.
What?
Oh, geez,
yeah.
that was awful.
Can you imagine if he got cursed and oh my god, he'd kill us all?
Oh,
He would believe then.
yeah.
Well, he supposedly doesn't believe. So I'll be like, dude, if I get you a Dybbuk block, would you open it on the show? And you know,
You shouldn't be anywhere near that.
oh, I'm far away. I'm anywhere near it.
Yeah, sorry. Make sure he does it at his house.
Hell yeah. Well, my house is already haunted, so I don't need any more stuff going on here.
That's not some shit you want in your house.
No. But I for a person who believes in the paranormal, I believe in ghosts. I tend to think it's a load of crap. I think it's an old wives' tale, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Not literally, but I think it's the stories that were handed down.
Mm-hmm.
I think people want to believe. But that being said, I want to go there and see for myself. Because a tiny bit of me is like, it's possible. Because I do believe it's possible. I just don't believe it's true. But like I said, I want to go there and I want to experience for myself. I'm one of those people that like, you know, all right, yeah, if I go there all of a sudden, you know, my leg falls off. All right, I apologize. You know, it's like, all right, dude, you're real. I apologize. I can admit when I'm wrong.
That's an extreme need. You need your leg to fall off?
I don't think that really happened, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like if all of a sudden I'm getting these weird pains that I never had before, it's like, yeah, all right, dude, remember that letter. I'm so sorry. Please don't curse me anymore, you know? Well, better yet, let's have Graham do it.
There you go.
I'm old. I'm 50. Let's have Graham do it. All you youngins should be doing this stuff. I'm just your leader. You kids should be out there taking the bullet for me.
You're not that much older than me.
I'm a lot older than you.
Not really.
You look like you're 12. Tom looks 13.
How did you know how old I was?
I know everything, Shae. I know everything.
That's so creepy.
I'm blacktastic for a reason.
Fair enough. I forgot. Sorry.
We're getting off Tom's story here.
No, it's
sorry,
okay.
Tom.
No, not at all. No, that was pretty much the end of the story. I mean, he's still there today. The museum, like I said, is called East Martello Museum, and just some cool things about him. The first time he had left the museum was for TAPSCon, and
I remember that actually.
Clearwater, Florida, in 2008.
I actually saw that actually.
And it was put on by the Atlantic Paranormal Society.
Yep.
And supposedly, some people have claimed after seeing him at the con, they came into some misfortune.
Of course he did.
So they remove him once a year out of the glass. And it's more just to document the deterioration of it and sort of and see if there's ways that they can, you know, better preserve him. Which
goes to my story of being a little crap. If you really felt something was like not good, you shouldn't be touching it.
Well, it's funny you say that because the person whose job it is to remove it once a year has been asked numerous times if it's true or if they believe in it.
You know, what do they say?
They shrug and smile.
Yeah.
So
which is a little crap. He's like, that ain't true.
It's but you don't is the person being 100% respectful? Because that's the idea. Remember, we're going back. If you go in and you introduce yourself, you show gratitude, you ask permission,
that.
and you thank him.
Dude, we gotta go there. Fuck this doll.
That doesn't happen. So
this doll is just starting to piss me off now. It's not even real. It's pissing me off. That's it. I'm going there right now.
There's been some movies made. You want to talk about these, Roy?
Sure. And my dog gets off me here. In 2015, there was a movie called Robert, which I was telling Tom, if I had known it was about Robert the doll, I would watch the movie, but I didn't know this at the time. So it's called Robert. And then there were 4 other movies. The second one was The Curse of Robert the Doll, a unique name. That was in 2016. 2017 was The Toy Maker. Again, if I knew what it was about, I would have watched it, but I heard The Toy Maker. I'm not watching that crap. 2018 was Revenge of Robert the Doll. As you can see, there's a lot of great names for these movies. And then in 2019, again, if I knew what it was about, I would have watched this movie too, Robert Reborn. Yeah, so like I would have watched some of these if I had known at the time, what they were about. But you name Robert, it's like,
I'm definitely going to try to find them and watch.
And if you guys want to read about Robert the Doll, you can go to robertthedoll.org.
Or if you want to hear tweets from him, he has his own Twitter at Robert the Doll.
Nice.
And again, there's the hashtag sorry Robert. If you've done anything to disrespect Robert,
Shae,
you could go there.
Shae, go tweet him and say fuck you to him. Come
No.
on, Shae. Just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Say, fuck you, Robert. You win shit. Come on, Shae, do it.
I'm going to send him a letter before you go down, so he knows you're coming.
Send him a letter. I have nothing to do with him. I may be on his team, but he speaks for himself, not the rest of us.
Don't hold this against me.
Yeah, right.
I'm nice-ish.
I'm nice-ish.
This one, isn't it weird in the paranormal how just certain things resonate with you and creep you out? As I'm reading this, I'm just thinking, well, a lot of people probably think I'm a quack because I'm so creeped out by this, but I don't believe in.
Well, think about it though. Like, I think it's creepy that a doll will put his hand on the glass. You know what I mean? That's creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't happen. It's like, well, if a doll's doing that, that's creepy.
Yeah.
So when I first read that, I was like, ooh, that gave me a few little chills there.
Can we backtrack for a second?
Yes, please.
I feel like I think you said something, and I'm not sure if I misheard or I'm just thinking on my own. Did you say that when it's possible his mother went to Germany and brought the doll home and gave it to him a couple years later? Did you say something about she had another daughter?
So Robert had 3 older siblings. The mother actually, she went to Germany in 1904 and gave it to him in 1904. She had went earlier in the year and then gave it to him on his birthday. Maybe the daughter part that the father supposedly had the affair with the Bahamian pastor's wife, and supposedly there's, like I said, there's vague details about a light-skinned black girl walking into the house. It's thought that it was due to an affair between Thomas Otto and the Emmeline Abbott, the Bahamian woman.
So there wasn't a child that died before that? I'm just making sure I 100% have you. I'm where you are. So there's not he didn't lose a sibling at some point, right?
No, not before that. No, that's the only point that I, in my research, that I had come across, that the possible half sister had passed away due to, and they didn't know, they were just guessing, because it was early 1900s, whether consumption, something TB, something like that. So, yeah. Oh.
Because then I started thinking Morning Doll. It looks a little bit, at least the way it's dressed, and I don't know how much the clothes have changed, but it's dressed a little bit like a male Victorian Morning Doll.
Oh, I'm glad you actually brought that up because I never even said that, and it's in my notes. Is for when Robert or Gene had him, he was always dressed in a little sailor's uniform from the Navy, which I think that is. And it was thought that, and I'm sure this could probably I don't know, this could be different clothing, but it was thought that it was actually some Robert Jean's clothes that he wore around the time that they gave to the doll.
Which I think makes it more creepy.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. There's something already inherently creepy about a 4-foot doll, and then you put it in like human clothes. It just gets weirder for me.
It's like a cross between Chucky and Annabelle. You guys realize that?
Well, this is what Chucky's based on, I think, isn't it?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, he's actually called what's he called? The original Chucky. That's one of his
Good
names.
boy? Good guy?
What's that?
The good
Okay.
guy. That was I know that was from one of them. Good guy Chucky. Yeah, wasn't that the name of the toy? The good guy or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I can't remember now.
No, it was my buddy.
Well,
No,
it's based on my buddy.
that's the doll. That's the
Called
doll.
my buddy.
Yeah,
No,
the doll. That's what I'm talking about. The doll. What are you guys talking about?
I don't even know what you're talking about, Roy.
I'm talking about the Rubber the doll. His original name was his name is called the original Chucky. That's what the Rubber the doll is considered
Yeah.
in folklore. He's
No,
called the original Chucky.
I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now. I wasn't understanding at first.
I have that effect on people. Especially when I have a dog jumping in my lap, a 70-pound dog. Wants to be in my business all of a sudden. So, anything else you guys have?
I mean, no, that's it. I mean,
All right.
I would like to actually, yes. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend you, Robert. Don't hurt me. Roy's the one that's talking all the shit.
Fuck you, Robert.
So
Fuck you and the boat you wrote in on. No, I'm just kidding.
please, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for letting us talk about this. I'm sure Shae feels the same way. Whatever you do to Roy is completely okay. Just don't hurt us.
Wow, I'm not feeling the love here, guys.
Hey,
Thank you, Robert.
thank you, Robert.
No, thank you, Robert. Screw you, Robert. No, actually, that's actually a good question, actually.
You're going to choke on your peanut brittle.
Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go sometime.
Sure.
I'm assuming that, like, you have to be there for him to affect you. Like, he can't affect me from where I am.
He has a
Nobody
Twitter. Maybe they let him watch this. I'm just saying. Maybe they're like, hey, you should hear this shit.
I do put it on Twitter, actually.
I know if I worked at that museum, I would hang out with him. I would let him watch TV. I would watch movies with him. I would smoke my weed with him, whatever.
You know, I would do that with him. I would do that too, actually. I would treat him like a real person. And I'm not even kidding now. We're not cussing. I'm just kidding around. But I would do that.
Yeah.
Not because I think he's cursed, but on the off chance there is something going on there, why can't he experience some cool stuff? You know? I have no problem if he's like fucking with people. You know, someone's taking a picture of him and you don't want a picture taken. Screw you. You don't get a picture taken. That's what you get. You piss him off, he fucks your back up. Screw you. That's what you get.
What I found really weird was how later in life Gene Otto started blaming Robert again.
Yeah.
Later in life.
Really?
Yeah, when he was married back there living with his wife, it was he went back to being the child when he was blaming it as a child that he's now he's adult, successful adult, a painter and author, but he's blaming little things on a doll. I always found that weird. So
there's Gene Otto right there.
When he moved out, did he bring the doll with him and then bring it back to the house, or did the doll stay in the house?
The doll stayed in the house.
No.
Okay. He went to Paris for school, for art and painting, and because he became a painter, and lived there for a while, and then moved back after the parents' death. Robert was still in the house. Is how the story goes. I mean, take that for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, from when I read, he left the doll there at the house. It was found in the wasn't it? I read it was found in like a closet or the attic or something.
Attic is what
Moving up
my
out the house.
research said. It could have been a closet. Mine had said he had been up in the attic because
Okay.
the father had moved it up there after.
I'm sure I heard the same thing. I just can't remember which one it was. But yeah, I think that's with the person who bought it found it and blah blah, like you said in your report, that the person found it and put it out again and blah blah blah. Went from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So that's the story. So awesome story, Tom. Shae, thank you for tuning into the episode today. You were a brilliant contributor.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
You're an ace reporter. And when Robert Goodell curses you, don't blame me.
Hey, no, he loves me because I have nothing but respect for him.
Yep, I respect you.
That's what she says, Robert.
Roy
Don't believe
Brady.
either one of them, Robert. Don't believe either one
Roy
of them.
Brady.
All right. Awesome, Tom. Awesome story. I know more about Robert the Doll now, whereas before I heard of him, but I didn't know a lot about him. Shae, thank you for tuning in. All you guys out there, go to our website at www.podpage.com/The Reaper Paranormal Show. Check out our future episodes. We are doing Gettysburg next. Shae, you're more than welcome to appear again if you want. I can't wait for that episode.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
That's week after next, right?
Yes, it'll be the following week. Will be the next episode. So for Tom and Shae, thank you all for listening. You guys have a great evening. Follow us on social media, the ReaperParanormalShow.com, the Reaper Paranormal Show on Twitter. Reaper Paranormal Investigations is our paranormal team. If you need help, contact us. You can email me at parareaper01@gmail.com. That's PARAREAPER01@gmail.com. So that's it, guys. We're out. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.